We can learn a lot from a blind beggar. Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 46. They came to Jericho, and as he was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a large crowd, Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the road. When he had heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many warned him to keep quiet, but he was crying out all the more, "Have mercy on me, Son of David." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called the blind man and said to him, "Have courage, get up, he's calling for you." He threw off his coat, jumped up, and came to Jesus. Then Jesus answered him, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Rabboni," the blind man said to him, "I want to see." Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has saved you." Immediately he could see, and he began to follow Jesus on the road. So this guy is in a crowd, or he's where he normally would be, begging when Jesus comes by. Now he's blind, he's doing what he normally does. But when he found out that it was Jesus, he began to cry out, trying to get his attention. There were people that kept trying to quiet him down, but he yells out even more and he gets louder. He knew there was something special about Jesus. And Jesus asked him what he wanted, and he says, plain and simple, to see. So Jesus told him his faith had healed him, and his sight came to him immediately. And what's the first thing that he does when his sight comes to him? He began to follow Jesus. He drops everything that he had and just follows Jesus. Faith comes first and saves, and then the works follow, the fruit follow. Life changes, and your perception and your priorities all change. Faith comes first and saves, then works, and the changes. Life changes. That's something that we've looked at probably a bunch of times, and something we've hit pretty hard as we've gone through in our community groups, James, as we've been going through James on Sunday nights. So it's something we need to know, that we believe and we surrender to the Lord. And because of that faith, we then begin to serve Him and serve others. And works continue to follow. And as we work, we see God at work. As we work, we see what He is doing in and around us. We see the fruit. So it's just like what happened to the blind man. He believed and he went to the Lord. His faith and his surrender to the Lord's power opened the door for his healing. Bartimaeus had faith, and Jesus healed him. So he gets to see the fruit, and he follows Jesus. So faith first, and then works. So I hope you know that. I hope you understand that. That's a concept that we need to always be conscious of and focus on. But I want us to look at a few other things as well in these scriptures. When Jesus said he could come to him, look what the guy does. In verse 50, he threw off his coat, jumped up, and came to Jesus. A blind beggar jumps up, throws off what he has, and runs to Jesus. When he was given the opportunity to see Jesus, he takes it. He gets excited. He gets excited about that opportunity. He gets excited to see Jesus, to spend time with Jesus. What about us? What about our lives? How many opportunities do we have to spend time with Jesus? I mean, every day we can dig into His Word, spending time with Him and His ways. Every moment we can commune with Him in prayer, talking to Him, listening for Him. We usually have at least 2 to 3 times a week where we can come together and with other believers who love the Lord, and we can sing His praises and spend time with Him. 2 or more gathered in His name. We can spend time with Him. There are a lot of opportunities that we have to gather together. But how often are we excited about it? How often would we be willing to throw off our coat, jump up, and go see Jesus? How often are we excited to get up and go to church? I mean, maybe that's having to get over sleep, waking up to go to church. How often are we excited to wake up and just go to church? Maybe that means stopping watching TV so that you can go to your community group on Sunday nights or Bible study on Wednesday nights. Maybe it's putting supper off until afterward so that you can go and spend those times. How often are we excited enough about those things that we will make it a priority? How often do we wake up and think, yes, another day I can sit here and I can read and I can pray and spend time with the Lord? Do we get excited about God's Word to the point where we want to dig into it? We want to look into that Word and we want to study it and we want to write things down so that we can do a deep dive when we get into our community group, looking at His Word with other believers. How often are we excited to do that? The numbers say that we're not. We can learn a lot from a blind beggar. Now, not only was he excited before everything happens, but he's excited afterward. In verse 42, Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has saved you." Immediately he could see, and he began to follow Jesus on the road. He follows Jesus. He spends time with him. He didn't just get his blessings and run off to enjoy them. He recognized the source of those blessings, the source of power. He recognized that his faith was well placed in Jesus, and so he goes to spend time with the Lord. He follows the Lord. He hangs out with the Lord. How often are our prayers answered? And we just take the blessings and go. We can learn a lot from a blind beggar. One more thing to challenge us from this guy. He didn't have much. I mean, beggars didn't have much. We know he had a cloak. He probably had a mat or something that he would sit on. But he's sitting there in his normal place, this dirty road, but this is his comfort zone. This is what he knows. And Jesus gave him an opportunity to come to him. Jesus gave him an opportunity to do something. And this guy left all that he had and ran to see Jesus. He didn't have much, but he left everything that he had. He left what was normal. He left what was comfortable and went to Jesus. He jumped at the chance to do what Jesus was calling him to do. I wonder how many of us would have done that. Or how many of us would have stayed in the comfort zone of what we know. Not pushing any boundaries, not trying to do anything too different. Staying in our own little pew, our own little house, our own little town. Not moving, not going where God is calling us to go. Not going where Jesus is calling us. Again, we look at the numbers because that's happening. Jesus is calling all of us. He's already given us a calling to go and to serve. There are definitely things that we could be doing, but are we jumping up to do them? We can learn a lot from a blind beggar.